Yo, it's Classic Hero. Welcome back to the video. In today's video, you see the title is learning how to do the handstand as a beginner. This is going to be stage number 2. So stage number 2, we're moving past stage number 1. Stage number 1, we're getting into those beginner exercises, learning how to build strength in our shoulders, learning how it feels to be upside down. But now we're taking it to the next level. We're doing kind of the same thing, feeling like what it's like being upside down. We're still building strength in our shoulders, but we're adding a little balance into the equation. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like here soon. So when it comes to the handstand, what's key is just like how your feet, like how you walk around on your feet, how you use your feet to balance and keep you standing. That's the same thing you got to do with your hands. So your hands, you got to use them as feet in a way. You got to use your palms. You're kind of pushing and moving. So even when you're in a handstand, your hands are pretty active. They're moving constantly, keeping your balance, making sure that you're balanced and that you're, by being in a straight line, it makes it a lot easier for you to balance, for you to be able to hold a handstand for even longer. When something is off balance, it kind of throws you off and makes your whole body fall down. So for instance, if you don't have enough flexibility in your shoulders, you're gonna bend your back to kind of push into that balancing position that you want to be in. But because you don't have that flexibility in your shoulders, you kind of arch your back to compensate for the lack of flexibility that you have in your shoulders. So it's key to make sure that you stretch your shoulders, that you practice on working on flexibility. This is one thing that I like to do. I like to use the band to kind of help me, or even a broomstick if you're into the more intermediate advanced level. But I'll say starting out, you want to use bands, just being able to stretch those shoulders out without causing too much pain and discomfort. It's kind of a way to ease your way into that. The closer you move your hands to the center of the band is the more that you'll feel the stretch in your shoulders. And just like in the beginner stage 1, you want to make sure that your wrists are warmed up before you even start practicing to work on these handstand exercises, these handstand moves. So make sure that you do that. And it's also even important to use some wrist wraps to help keep your wrists stable, to help protect your wrists as you practice these moves, and keeps you from having injury or wrist pain or intense wrist pain. We have 2 stances that you can do. It's called the crow pose. All right, so with the crow pose, you are learning some balance here, using your hands kind of like feet in this position. Of course, you have some of your body weight on your shoulders, but it's not quite there. It just kind of gives you a feel of what it feels like when you're doing a handstand. Just a little bit of a feel of what that feels like. Even with the frog stance, kind of the same thing, but a little bit more advanced. So your hips are a little bit higher, a little bit more over your head in that position. So you kind of feel a bit more of what it's like being completely upside down in a handstand. The thing you want to work on are some kick-ups. So you want to be able to have the right amount of pressure given to kick up into the air, to bring one leg up and the other leg up into that perfect handstand where you're feeling to where you're into that perfect handstand. And the cool thing about doing it against the wall is that you don't have to worry about falling down. You don't have to worry about the fear of falling over, things like that. And you can even kind of practice how to fall by using the wall. And another thing I like to do to practice just keeping a straight line in my handstand is bringing my chest to the wall. Again, if you're not ready for the stage, there's other ways that you can practice being upside down and working your way up. You start by putting your feet on an elevated surface, starting from the ground and then starting to put your feet on the elevated surface. I'm using my dip bars here to do that, or you can go straight into the wall, using the wall completely and being completely upside down. And it's definitely going to feel a lot more of your body weight, of course. So your shoulders, your triceps, your elbows, your joints, your hands, your wrists, They're all gonna feel your body weight. You're gonna feel a pretty good burn when you're first starting to do these. But eventually, the more you practice, the more you'll get used to being upside down, being in this movement, and the less you'll feel fatigued doing these. Just while you're doing these, you want to make sure that you're pushing all the way up, especially with the chest to wall, to mimic what it's like being in a handstand, because that's what you're doing. You're pushing into the ground, allowing your body to stay in a straight line is going to be key. And you want to practice good form starting out, so that when you do start finally practicing the handstand, you'll have better, form getting into it, then continue to improve your form, of course, as you go. But this is just stage number 2. And I would suggest when you finish working on these, just to work on some more flexibility for about 10 or 15 minutes, just to really help be consistent with that, just to help be more consistent with that and allow your body to eventually get more and more flexible, your shoulders to get more and more flexible. And then same thing with your wrists and your hands. You can kind of do that same wrist warm-up routine that I showed y'all in stage number 1. So if you're new to this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, that's it for today's video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.